The dictator who killed millions was terrified of house cats. The dictator who controlled nuclear weapons couldn't sleep without checking under his bed. Today on Tyrant Tales, dictators surprising everyday fears. These aren't made-up stories. These are documented phobias that controlled the lives of men who controlled entire nations. You'll discover how everyday objects took down some of history's most powerful rulers. Section 1. Adolf Hitler afraid of cats. Adolf Hitler, who caused millions of deaths, had a surprising fear. He was scared of cats. This fear was so intense that Hitler would refuse to enter any room where a cat was present. His bodyguards received strict orders to remove cats from any location before Hitler arrived. When visiting people's homes, staff would check every room and closet to ensure no cats were hiding. The fear was so severe that Hitler would break into a sweat just hearing a cat meow. During one documented incident at a dinner party, a host's cat wandered into the room. Hitler jumped up, demanded the cat be locked away, and wouldn't eat until someone confirmed it was out of sight. His personal physician noted that Hitler's pulse would increase dramatically whenever cats were mentioned in conversation. Staff learned to avoid the topic entirely during briefings and meetings. Isn't it crazy that Hitler, who said he loved animals, often posed with dogs for propaganda? But cats triggered something primal in him that he couldn't control. Some historians believe this fear developed in childhood, but Hitler never explained it to anyone. The guy who conquered nations couldn't handle a tiny pet.
Section 2. Joseph Stalin terrified of dentists. Joseph Stalin controlled the Soviet Union with an iron fist, but he had one fear that nearly destroyed his health. He was absolutely terrified of dentists. Stalin's dental phobia was so extreme that he would endure excruciating tooth pain rather than visit a dentist. Soviet records show that Stalin went years without proper dental care, causing his teeth to rot and fall out one by one. The dictator who ordered mass executions would pace his office for hours, holding his jaw in agony, but still refusing dental treatment. His advisors begged him to see specialists, but Stalin became paranoid that dentists might poison him or use the appointment to assassinate him. When Stalin finally agreed to dental work in his later years, the entire procedure had to be performed under extraordinary security measures. Armed guards surrounded the dental chair. Food tasters tested all materials. Multiple doctors observed to ensure no one could harm the Soviet leader. Even then, Stalin would only allow the most basic procedures. He refused anesthesia because he feared losing consciousness. Witnesses reported that the tough dictator would grip the chair arms so tightly. During cleanings, he would leave permanent indentations in the metal. By the time of his death, Stalin had lost most of his natural teeth. The man who struck fear into millions spent his final years eating soft foods. He spoke with a lisp because he was too terrified to get proper dental care. His dental phobia was so well known among inner circle members. Some joked privately about bringing a dentist's drill to intimidate him during disagreements. Section 3. Saddam Hussein, afraid of flying. Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq through wars and invasions, but he had a fear that limited his power on the world stage. He was terrified of flying in airplanes. This phobia was so severe that Saddam rarely left Iraq throughout his entire career as dictator. While other world leaders traveled freely for diplomatic meetings, Saddam would drive hundreds of miles rather than take a short flight. Intelligence reports from multiple countries documented Saddam's flight anxiety. When he absolutely had to fly for important meetings, the preparation was extraordinary. His security team would inspect every bolt and wire on the aircraft. Multiple backup planes were prepared. Saddam would take sedatives and surround himself with trusted guards. During the few flights Saddam did take, witnesses reported that the dictator would grip his seat, sweat profusely, and refuse to look out the windows. He would demand constant updates on weather conditions. Repeatedly ask pilots to confirm everything was functioning normally. This fear became a strategic weakness. Saddam was unable to attend important international summits that required air travel. His inability to fly limited Iraq's diplomatic relationships and made him appear weak to other world leaders who traveled constantly. The man who launched missile attacks and chemical weapons against his enemies couldn't handle being 30,000 feet in the air. His fear of flying contributed to Iraq's international isolation and may have influenced major political decisions throughout his reign. Some historians argue that Saddam's flight phobia prevented diplomatic solutions that might have avoided wars. The dictator who controlled one of the world's largest militaries was grounded by his own terror. If these surprising fears are as shocking to you as they were to us, subscribe to Tyrant Tales and hit that bell icon. Exploring the minds of history's powerful leaders, your support fuels more amazing human stories. Section 4. Benito Mussolini, afraid of the evil eye and superstitions. Benito Mussolini, Italy's fascist dictator who allied with Hitler, had a secret fear that controlled his daily life. He was absolutely terrified of superstitions and the evil eye. This fear was so extreme that Mussolini carried lucky charms everywhere he went. He wore multiple amulets under his uniform and refused to make important decisions on certain days he considered unlucky. Italian government officials documented that Mussolini would cancel military meetings if he saw a black cat cross his path. He thought it meant disaster, so he'd change war plans out of superstition. The dictator was obsessed with the number 17, which he considered deeply unlucky in Italian culture. He refused to hold meetings on the 17th of any month and would never sit in row 17 at theaters or events. His staff learned to avoid scheduling anything important on these dates. Mussolini's fear of the evil eye became so well known that his enemies used it against him. During World War II, resistance fighters would paint symbols associated with bad luck on buildings, where Mussolini was scheduled to appear, knowing it would unsettle him. He employed fortune tellers and astrologers to advise him on military decisions. Historical records show that Mussolini delayed important military operations because his personal astrologer warned him that the stars were unfavorable. During one documented incident, Mussolini refused to enter a room for an important diplomatic meeting because he noticed the table had 13 chairs. He demanded that another chair be added immediately, even though only 13 people were attending. His superstitious behavior became so extreme that Hitler privately mocked. Section 5. Julius Caesar, afraid of dreams and omens. Julius Caesar conquered Gaul and became Rome's most powerful leader, but he had a fear that ultimately contributed to his death. He was terrified of prophetic dreams and supernatural omens. Caesar was super paranoid, hiring fortune tellers. Roman historians documented that Caesar would cancel military campaigns if he had disturbing dreams the night before. The most famous example came on the Ides of March in 44 BC. A soothsayer warned Caesar to beware the Ides of March, and Caesar's wife Calpurnia had nightmares about his assassination. She begged him not to go to the Senate that day. Caesar was genuinely terrified by these omens. Historical accounts show he initially decided to stay home, his fear of supernatural warnings overriding his political duties. His hands reportedly trembled as he debated what to do. But his fellow senators convinced him these were just superstitions, mocking his fear. Caesar, embarrassed by appearing weak, decided to prove he wasn't controlled by omens and went to the Senate anyway. Hours later, he was stabbed 23 times by assassins, dying at the base of Pompey's statue, exactly as the omens had warned. His fear of supernatural signs was completely justified, but his fear of appearing afraid proved even stronger. Roman writers noted the tragic irony. The man who ignored military dangers and led armies into battle was genuinely terrified of dreams and prophetic warnings. If he had listened to his fears instead of his pride, he might have lived. These 5 dictators had power but were scared of everyday things. Can you believe it? Even powerful leaders had fears that drove their actions. It's eye-opening, isn't it? What surprised you most about these dictator fears? Share your thoughts below. Loved exploring the weaknesses of powerful figures? Subscribe to Tyrant Tales for more deep dives into the minds of dictators, kings, and rulers. Hit that like button to help more people discover these incredible historical stories. Until next time, remember that everyone has fears, even those who seem unstoppable.